Welcome back to Tales from the PowerAge. How you doing, guys?
Evening, addicts.
Good stuff. Hope you're well. Well, tonight we're taking you all the way back to 1988. We normally start these podcasts with what happened in 1988, but we can't remember much of what happened in 1988, apart from regaling some of these records and some of the gigs that we went to in that year. So if anyone's not watched this before, we curate 12 of the best rock and metal albums from the year in question, and this year's 1988. We talk through 3 each, and then we'll give you our top 5, which Jammy does at the end of the show. Now, if you've not seen us before, or if you have seen us before, please give us a like, ring the house bell, and we'd love it if you gave us a sub as well. That really, really helps us get motivated to do these shows. Anyway, without further ado, let's kick off with our top 12, our dirty dozen from 1988. I'm going to kick off with Gap. Over to you, mate.
Yay, hello. This first one is Helloween, Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 2. And this, for me, is when Helloween really hit their stride. They were fantastic live. They'd already obviously had Part 1, which was brilliant as well, and didn't scrape into the top 12 that year. But this one had to go in. Really fully firing on all cylinders. The 19, 20-year-old singer, Michael Kiske, was obviously a rock star. And they were attracting interest from management, like Maiden's management and people like that. Actually had some brilliant singles off the album. The first one, Dr. Steen. And the good thing about them is they always had brilliant B-sides as well, which we do say a lot. You know, we really respect bands that have got good B-sides, and there's a song on this one called Savage, which is really fast and really heavy, and living ain't no crime. And then the other one was I Want Out, which was a big MTV video, which you probably remember. It's quite a funny video. All of them wrote for this album, all the main guys anyway. And I certainly saw them later in the year at Hammersmith Odeon, I think November. And it was on that tour where they recorded the Live in the UK album. So for me, this was their peak. You know, Dill and I saw them in Germany, didn't we, the year before?
Yeah, we did, yeah.
And they
played in German, or talking in German.
In German, which I always say was really cool, but what else would they do in Germany? They're going to talk in German. But again, great packaging, gatefold sleeve, inner cover as well. My highlights from the album, Eagle Fly Free. Just such a
fantastic song.
Rise and Fall is brilliant as well.
Yeah.
Big shout out to the drummer.
Ingo.
Yeah, he had a bit of a tortured life and no longer with us, but fabulous drummer. I really love his drumming, especially on the live album. What about you boys?
Yeah, great album. Great album. For me, it's better than the first one.
Yeah.
The first part, like you say, your standouts are pretty much mine as well. But I've always loved Dr. Steen. Absolutely brilliant song. And when they still play it live now, and it's fantastic.
It is a very silly song.
Yeah, as is Rise and Fall, to be fair.
Yeah.
and they were good live. They played, now correct me if I'm wrong, they played Monsters Rock Donington in 88.
Yeah.
And they played Germany in 87.
That's it. Exactly right. Yeah, I was confused earlier thinking they played the same year in Germany, but they didn't.
Yeah.
They were replaced by Testament, weren't they?
Yeah. We'll talk about that. Yeah.
Very confusing for everybody, but yeah, fabulous band. And it was literally the gig in Hammersmith was one of the best gigs I've ever been to. They were just so hot. They were so brilliant. They had a great sense of humor as well. Yeah, fantastic band. Next one. Probably a bit shocking for people that watch this regularly, think that I'm probably going to do another Marillion album, but no.
Me and Joe both with the hype sticker there.
Yeah.
Bought it on day of release.
Make that 3, shall we?
Yeah.
So it's so brilliant. So with anyone that's listening, it's Slayer, South of Heaven. For me, my favourite album of theirs, and for numerous reasons. They slowed down a bit. Not that I don't like the really fast stuff, but I absolutely love this like chugging, powerful threatening sound that they got on this album. The production's brilliant, the drumming's brilliant, obviously Dave Lombardo, and the songs were brilliant. There isn't a weak song, and even the dreaded cover, which nobody likes, the cover song is a Judas Priest song, and it's bloody brilliant. They did it completely in a Slayer way, and it's great. It doesn't really stand out as a cover song on the album. It fits in like a treat. So yeah, that's the UK version. I've got the American version as well. I didn't even realise until we did the pod. I got two. Hooray!
Okay. You haven't got the promo, though? The US promo?
I have not. Oh.
There you go.
Oh, it's got a stamp.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now, for any kids watching that ever goes to a record fair, I'll give you a little tactic here. I only bought this about a year ago, I think. Gaps 2 years ago, because I think I contacted you straight after I purchased it. Indeed. And I think it was on for about £45, 50 quid. And I pulled my wallet out and had strategically said I only have £20 left. Did you want it? And,
£20.
£20, and the vendor agreed, and I purchased it for 20 quid. So
good
there
job.
you go. There's always a deal to be had, kids. So just if you don't ask, you don't get. And
absolutely,
that's worth about 150, I think. So,
yeah, certainly north of 100 if it's a good book. Yeah,
for sure. Right. Yeah, it's in perfect condition.
And like Helloween, I saw them in Hammersmith the same year as well. So on their World Sacrifice tour, that was September, I think. Yeah, what a good year already.
Excellent.
And my final, which is a lot more predictable if you know me, sorry everyone, Magnum, Wings of Heaven. Now again, a band hitting its stride commercially. Gone are most of the prog and weird flute solos from days of yore, and in as a commercial production, hit singles, top of the pops appearances for these boys. So finally, the Polydor relationship paying off, released on multiple formats. So there's a picture disc there, which is pretty. Album which has got the nice foiling. There's an early promo version of it there. There's 3 singles off the album as well, which I might wave around at some point. But there was Days of No Trust, which was the first one, came out in white vinyl. Start Talking Love, which was the one that got onto Top of the Pops. Look it up on YouTube, it's brilliant. That's red vinyl. And then finally there was Must Have Been Love, which was blue vinyl. So yeah, really successful. They still were doing Hammersmith on this tour. We saw them at Hammersmith and Reading. And then, in fact, their live video, which is kind of famous now amongst Magnum fans, was filmed at Hammersmith on this tour, and then later turned into a video. Never been on DVD, but it was a Laserdisc. And there is a remastered version on YouTube, which is brilliant. So it's called Wings of Heaven Live at Hammersmith. I was there.
There you go. Did they play Wembley Arena that year as well, Gav? Or was that the
following year? The following tour was Wembley. Yeah, which kind of strange. I thought it was this tour, but that's what sometimes that happens. The album gets huge, and the next tour is the bigger tour.
So I've not got this album. Is that the rest of the? I know it probably is, but the rest of the band, I'm guessing that's them on that bit of rock behind. It looks like Stanway and Wally.
Yeah, right? Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah,
it's got a bit of bad news about it. That picture, isn't it?
Yeah, I always feel sorry for the guys at the back,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, you can just imagine that being a funny moment in bad news. But anyway,
if the guy at the back can just go behind the rock.
Yeah, because we can't make him out anyway, so he might as well be behind the rock.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, obviously, Magnum big in my heart at the moment with the passing of Tony Clarkin.
Yeah.
And the fantastic new album that they've left us with, which is behind me. So yeah, that's my 3, and they're pretty solid contenders for the top 5, I'd say.
I kind of fell out of love with Magnum. They got to a bit too poppy for me with this one. So
there's still a long track on there. They're I think one of their longest tracks is on there, which is the
Don't Wake the Lion. Yeah, 10 minutes or so, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it was a crazy time because, and we've spoken, if anyone's watched the 87 pod, there's the way that the music was starting to divide its way up and going like proper thrash and real metal, and then you had the hair metal, and you had a bit more poppy, you had Hysteria. Magnum, we'd followed them across throughout town halls and stuff, 83, 84, 85, even 86. And I had this awful habit back then. I was just getting a bit more metal. I had this awful habit. If someone got too big, I was like, whatever. I'm not going to be liking bands anyone's heard of. And bands going on top of pops. I'd got to that stage now at 18, 19. It's like, okay, right. What else is there we can listen to? Oh, Metallica, Megadeth. Okay. So yeah, I at this point I'd sort of left the Magnum fold for a little while, but I do recognise that this was massive for them and propelled them, didn't it?
It's a great album.
Yeah.
It's actually recorded at the same studio as Hysteria in Wisseloord, Holland, using the same engineer as well.
Okay, kids. Well, look, stay tuned, because Jam has just said that he didn't like any bands that were big, but wait for the 3 that he produces a little bit later. So look out for that. Right. Okay. Next, we've got Gappy. Over to you, Gaps.
Hello. This is a strange one for me. I hadn't heard of Suicidal Tendencies in 1988, and I remember being in a record shop, put that drink down, and this is an album I bought purely because of the cover. And what a great title, probably the longest title of an album you'll ever come across, because that's not the whole title there. It's How Will I Laugh Tomorrow When I Can't Even Smile Today. Well, that's the name of the song that is on the album anyway. Listen to this on repeat. Absolutely adore this band. Absolutely adore this album. I mean, look at Mike Muir there. How metal is he? And they were a bit of a skater boy band, crossover sort of thrashy type band before this. But this, with the introduction of Mike Clark on rhythm guitar, who wrote most of the songs, they turned into a pretty thrashy, proper metal band. And this is their first proper metal album. It's the 3rd album they released. It was a great purchase, and I still play it to this day. It's brilliant. It was a precursor to what they did in 1990 with when they got really big with Lights Camera Revolution. But I still think this is one of the best albums that I've got in my collection. Yeah, Mike Muir's lyrics on this album are just fantastic. Never bettered within the title track itself. How Will I Laugh Tomorrow When I Can't Even Smile Today? It's just so poignant. It's really, really good. There's a lot of guitar solos on this album, which they hadn't had before on Join the Army or the first album. It's just a great, great metal album, and I absolutely love it. Anyone?
Never heard it.
Well, you've missed out, son.
I will.
I'll be honest. This is one of those bands I was on Gappy's coattails because he was totally into Suicidal and Tendencies, and I really loved it. When he first played it to me, I was like, "Wow, that is really good. That's flipping brilliant." And How Will I Laugh Tomorrow? It's immense. The vibe, it's got such a vibe in it, as you say, in the crossover.
I was going to say that. Yeah, it doesn't sound like anything else, does it? That we were listening to at the time.
No, and it was so different. And we had the Anthrax going on in among, and they had a vibe of their own. And these were just different. They were just different and so heavy and so tortured as well. And the lyrics, as you say, how will I laugh tomorrow when I can't even smile today? We were of an age.
Just that line is just brilliant.
Yeah, we were of an age, and a lot of their lyrics really spoke to me at the time. We were going through loads of stuff like you do as teenagers, and drink. We were all drinking. Well, I know I was quite sociably, and I was really, really sociable at the time. And it meant a lot. So yeah, this is a really good record, Gaps. And
I borrowed one of my mum's. Sorry, Jan. I borrowed one of my mum's scarves so I could put it around my face like Mike Muir's got there, and I wore that when we were going out at college, and I got a lot of funny looks.
Yeah.
Was your mum in the cribs?
Did you?
No, but she had a blue neck scarf which looked almost identical to the one he's got on there. So I used to wear that out of an evening, and looking quite menacing as I did with my long hair back then as well.
So, Gaps, can I confirm? Did you used to use that scarf and wear it when you attended the snooker club that we belonged to at the time?
Because if you recall, is that a memory that you have that I had it on then?
It is because do you recall the name that you signed in under every time that you went to town?
I always signed in as Mike Muir. Yeah, absolutely.
You signed in as Mike Muir every time, and it was just hilarious that you saw yourself as that guy there with the muscles and everything. All right, Mike.
Excuse me. Are you saying I didn't have muscles?
You did sign as Suicidal Tendencies every time we.
I always remember your email, Gappy, as well. When
I was just about to mention that. Yeah, my first ever email address was suicidalpsycho@hotmail.com, and I've still got it today. I don't use it. I use it for personal stuff. I don't use it for anything else. But
you should check it now because people are going to be writing to you.
Yeah, you get loads of us.
Anyway, that's Suicidal Tendencies. What's next?
Well, we're carrying along on the metal front, really, aren't we? Here, with it's one I bought. I was massively into Megadeth after Peace Sells, and so this was the first album I was looking forward to hearing on release by them. It's the only album with guitarist Jeff Young and drummer Chuck Beeler. Now, Chuck Beeler had been Gar Samuelson, the previous drummer's drum tech, and he took over drumming duties when Gar was fired. And just a little side note to that, when Chuck Beeler was fired, his drum tech, Nick Menza, took over drum duties again. Dave liked promoting from within, especially in the drumming ranks anyway. Another great album by them. It starts off with an instrumental, which is a really strong instrumental, goes into Set the World Afire, which is a fantastic song. The only letdown for me is that they carried on the tradition of doing a cover version on each album. They stopped for 1990's greatest album of all time, which was Anarchy in the UK by the Sex Pistols. It's, the original is obviously brilliant. Their version was pretty insipid, to be fair, and he changed the lyrics, although he said that he misheard them, which was a bit annoying. So that could have done without being on it. In My Darkest Hour is a massive tribute to Cliff Burton, and the lyrics in that are just great if you've never heard that before. Obviously, he died fairly recently, and Dave was really pissed off because none of the Metallica guys told him, and he only heard about it through hearsay. So he was very, very annoyed and wrote In My Darkest Hour about that. It's got Mary Jane on it, which is about a witch. One of the greatest songs they did, and it was me and my brother. It was one of my brother's first gigs. We went to see him at Hammersmith, so we saw that lineup on that because that lineup was only on that tour. So yeah, so it's a really, really strong album for 1988. Yeah,
I like the album as well. Gaps, we went to see him at Hammersmith on this tour in 1988, which was brilliant. Just the head banging all the way through. It was a really good show. Really enjoyed it, which was more than my wife went to see them. Well, she didn't go to see them. She went to see Metallica in the same year, but they played a little sports arena. It's like a little sports hall in Antrim, which is near Belfast, and he said something he probably shouldn't have said. And
he did indeed.
There was a full-scale riot afterwards.
She was actually there at that gig.
No, she was at the Metallica one, but I've been in the hall. It's like a school hall. I mean, it's tiny, so you can just imagine. But anyway, a full riot ensued, and he got a lot of bad press on the back of that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it did indeed. But it's typical Dave shouting his mouth. But but there you go. Love the man to death.
Okay, cool. Anything else on this one, guys?
Good to see Jeff Young wearing a Michael Schenker t-shirt on the back. Just noticed.
Oh yeah, he looks like Dan Spitz on there as well, doesn't he?
Yes, look how big his guitar is compared to him. Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Yeah. Cool. Next.
Good stuff. Next one.
Yeah, this one for me. This is my summer album for this year. It was released in January, so we had all year to listen to it. And at the time, I was going to see a rather special lady in my life who I went there every day, drove from Henton to Abingdon every single day for 6 months, sort of lost contact with everyone else. But I was listening to this on repeat in the car, along with, bizarrely, High and Dry by Def Leppard. Those two albums I just listened to constantly in that year. For me, it's a better album than Eat 'Em and Smile. Eat 'Em and Smile is very raw. It still had the same personnel, but they'd added Brett Tuggle on keyboards. It didn't it didn't do so well in the music press. They thought it was a bit too keyboardy, but I absolutely adore this album. There's no bad song on it. Just like Paradise. Is that the single you had there, Gav?
Yeah.
It's the one that Steve Vai actually doesn't like, and I can't believe it because he does one of his best ever guitar lines in it after the first line of lyrics, which is impossible to describe on here. And I'm not going to try and make the noise that he makes on the guitar when he does it, but it blew me away.
It's the perfect pop song. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love it. Hot Dog and a Shake, total metal on that song, but it goes really weird in Skyscraper, which is probably my favourite song off the album. Very, very strange song, but it's really, really good. And ends with 2 Fools a Minute with a horn section and a bass solo and a brilliant Steve Vai guitar solo. There's nothing I can say about this. It's just fantastic. And then you look at the cover. I think he is. He's climbing in Yosemite there in California. Freestyle, no ropes. That wasn't staged, people. He was actually doing that. A bit like Tom Cruise does in all his films. It's brilliant. Absolutely adore this album to this day. It's brilliant.
Good stuff. Any other comments on this one,
The
Jam?
weirdest CD single you'll ever see. Like, 3-inch. It's random, isn't it?
I've got an AC/DC one like that.
Yeah.
I'll try and find it. Hang on.
Yeah, typical Warner. The B-sides are just tracks off the other album. Cheapskate.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they did that all the time, didn't they?
Crap.
But for
Jammo,
this album,
I know you love this album, didn't you, mate?
well, the thing is, I do, and even when it came out, I loved it, and I didn't know why, because it had Just Like Paradise, which was like a fucking pop song.
I love it.
And the song, I know, and I loved it, and I was like, what was I doing? Because I was, but I really liked it, and it was, it wasn't everything that I should like. The actual song Skyscraper wasn't metal, and it was a little bit different, and I really, really liked it, and it's.
Yeah, ditto. It's just out there, isn't it? That song, it really is.
Yeah, so it just shows because we're quite set. There's certain things that we really like, but one of the things with us four, I think, is that we're always so open to new stuff, and that still applies to today. And this is one of those things. It wasn't like a typical Dave Lee Roth plays Van Halen, because we had this situation where the Dave Lee Roth left Van Halen, and suddenly us massive Van Halen fans would we prefer Van Hagar or Dave Lee Roth. And this was, again, it wasn't typical. It wasn't like Eat 'em and Smile, but I loved it. Really, really good record. I really liked it a lot.
Okay, yeah, good album. Love, yeah, good summer album, Gaps. Can't deny it. Was it produced by Ted Templeman, this as well, or not?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That would probably explain a lot.
Cool.
Okay, next one. I think they're me, aren't they? Next, right? Okay. Let's be honest. This probably isn't going to win tonight. It's just gone in for a. Well, do you know what? It's gone in because I had some great time seeing Dogs D'Amour in the late 80s. They were brilliant. They looked fantastic. They sounded great live. They were brilliant fun. Oh my gosh, we got up some capers going to see this lot in London. One particular incident, I know we should be talking about the album, managed to have a head-on collision in London and Bayswater Road with a good friend of mine. And some lady had a few sherbets, and she was in a Toyota Celica, which came head first into us. And in our shock and dismay, somehow my mate Spice had got some road signs in the boot. I don't know how they ended up there, but we thought that the police would be on the scene quite quickly, and it probably wouldn't look great with all these road signs he'd acquired from somewhere. So we quickly had to get rid of all of those. And anyway, to cut a long story short, we all my parents had to come and pick us up from Paddington Hospital or somewhere around there, and we didn't get back till 5 o'clock in the morning. But it was they were happy days, happy days, and they were great live. This album actually.
I had to wear a neck brace for the next 6 months, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Well, he wore a neck brace. Interestingly, like, before we get onto the album, I should probably mention this. He wore a neck brace and wasn't at work, so the rest of us were all at college, and he was working full time. And by the way, the car that had been written off was a Maxi. So anyone that can remember those old Maxis, they're like Sherman tanks. He was absolutely massive. Must have weighed about 10 tons. Anyway, we're all right, so that's why we're obviously still here. But he was playing football about 6 weeks later, and he was rising like a salmon to head the ball into the net. His boss was driving past, because the rest of the time he's walking around with this neck brace on. Anyway, Happy Days, Dogs to More, great memories. So this album, it's got some great songs on it, and their probably most famous song, which of course was released, and they went on top of the pops, believe it or not, back in the day. Can you believe Dogs to More were on top of the pops? How Come It Never Rains, which is a really good song. They were great days, and I've got some brilliant memories of these guys. Seeing them at the Town and Country Club, which is now the Forum, seeing them at the Astoria many nights with Tim Norton and Bussy and the guys. It was they were great days, and they were fantastic. And Tyler, I think he's still around doing some stuff now, and he's linked up with many sort of British artists over the year. Over the years, he had this thing where he used to slash his a bit like Iggy Pop used to do with a broken bottle of wine, and it was great when you're 18, but maybe not so great now. But look, so it's certainly worth checking out. They were good fun. And any other comments around the Dogs to More?
I remember that song you mentioned being on a Kerrang video. I think. Do you remember those Kerrang compilation with a K?
Yeah.
The Rain song was on that.
There
was always a real contrast between the British bands and the American bands on those videos, because the British videos would be pretty crap, low budget, and the American ones would be fabulous, amazing, Hollywood stuff.
Yeah.
They were on that, and it's a good song.
Yeah,
and,
it's good.
The drummer is Bam, isn't it? And
that's right. Yeah,
he left them and joined the Wild Hearts, the very first version of the Wild Hearts. Yeah. And when my band supported the Wild Hearts, he was in the band, and he had this massive camcorder, and he was going around filming everything. So he was filming us backstage. It was really cool. He was a nice guy. Really nice guy.
They were great guys. They actually released an album before that one as well. Ironically, I probably prefer this one, but we put this one on because this was the main one, and it did give them some small success for those few months in 1988. So if we can go on to the next one, this is one probably a bit closer to my heart. Anyone that's seen any of these before will probably not be surprised that I've picked this one out. This is, of course, Blow Up Your Video. Interestingly, Gab, getting me to pick that one out. Of course, this was Cinderella from Blow Up Your Video. That must have been a thing in 1988.
Yeah, 1988 was the time to do stupid CDs.
3-inch CDs. Now, a couple of things to show you before we talk about the album. On the cover, as you can see there, that's clearly the one that was used in the UK, in Europe, etc. But there was a country in South America that decided to use the Heat Seeker cover as the cover for Blow Up Your Video, and that's really interesting. That's a Venezuelan copy for those of you that. So there's the Heat Seeker 12-inch. And there is the Venezuelan Blow Up Your Video.
Wow, that's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, there's the back as well, same as the 12-inch, right?
Yeah.
So if you get, it's not an amazing condition, the cover, but these aren't easy to come by. Trust me, quite a lot of these really rare South American ones are quite difficult to get your hands on.
I'll be honest, I was going to guess at Venezuela. I thought that was going to be a question.
I was going to say Ecuador.
Well, I did say Venezuela because that is so often when you said you've got something in the post, I often say, "Is it from Venezuela?"
I know you love that, but there's a couple of other things. There's a picture disc of Heat Seeker, which is pretty cool from the video.
Yeah,
he jumps out of a little rocket, and there's that's the one. Was that the one you were just showing, Gav? That's one of Rock and Roll with the Blow Up Your Video World Tour 1988. So, whilst we're on the subject of
my favourite song from that album.
Yeah, there's some good songs on this album. That's the Way I Want to Rock and Roll. I think that's really cool. There's a great video to that as well. Yeah, Snake Eye, which is not available on any other. Well, it is now because I think it went on to Backtracks. I think they did 4 nights at Wembley Arena, which I think all of us attended that at some point. They did 3 nights that were close together and then came back on April the 13th. It was brilliant. Even my parents, my little bro went to one of the evenings. And to this day, my dad still says, because they were invited in to watch the sound check, believe it or not, in Wembley Arena. So they all wandered around. My little bro, who would have been 13, 14 at the time, and he would have been 13 actually, and they invited him by one of the roadies to watch the sound check.
Wow.
And to this day, my dad is convinced, and he won't be changed, that they played Livewire in the sound check. So,
well, your dad should know. It's his favourite song.
Yeah, he does know. Yeah, he used to love that song. So, Happy Days. Some great songs on the album. Brilliant tour. I picked up a few plectrums from this tour as well. It was. I was
No surprise there.
Obsessed with AC/DC at the time. There was a T-shirt.
I mean, at the time,
wouldn't have been appropriate. There was a guy with a suit on with a heat-seeking missile, looking at a young lady bending over a desk. That was the T-shirt. Can you imagine that now? No.
Well,
The production was really, the guitars weren't overdriven, were they? They were really kind of clean sounding.
Harry Vander and George Young were back on the production desk for this one, and that's probably why. It sounded good.
It does sound good. Yeah.
Yeah, there are some good songs on the album, and definitely worth a listen. I do go back and listen to this from time to time. It's not my most listened to AC/DC album, but yeah, it was. They were big at the time. Some good videos on MTV as well. So yeah, happy days.
Well, for me, the song Heat Seeker, which was an awesome single, personally, I thought it was brilliant. It's an absolute banging track. We had the luxury, obviously, that was owned by the guy who did the discos at the local social club. So throughout this year, 88 especially, and 89, you could hear the dulcet tones around about the 10:30, 11 o'clock mark of Heat Seeker! Heat Seeker! From myself, probably Gappy, John Watman.
Oh, I'd have been there.
We would have been calling for Heat Seeker, and he often used to oblige. Obviously, he kept leaving it as late as possible, because if he'd have played it earlier, we'd have wanted it played again. And I just remember we would all take to the floor, we would dance. I remember this one girl once looking at us at the end of the song, said, "Well, why do you do that? Doesn't it hurt your neck?" And I remember going, "I need a drink." Let's go straight back to the bar. So happy halcyon days.
They were happy days. They were really, really happy days. I was talking to a friend of ours, and shout out to you, Paulo, and he was saying, I think it was this gig we were driving to, and he used to have a red Fiat Uno, and we would drive into Wembley Arena to get there early. And by the way, I think 2 or 3 of these tickets I bought outside off the touts, and I think they must have felt sorry for me because I was looking so young, and I'm picking them up quite cheap prices and right down the front every night. It was brilliant. But he turned to me as we were driving on the M40 into London and said, "We're actually doing 100 miles an hour." So anyone that knows the M40 down from High Wycombe will know that's a stretch of road that just goes downhill, and that was a moment to be remembered. So
and there are no cameras on it either.
No, not in those days.
I'm pretty sure, just so that you know, I've got it on pretty good authority that the touts, because one of them once said to me, they figured you'd spend all your money on your cowboy boots and your hairspray for the back.
Yeah,
the back. Right. They knew you didn't have any money left after all that makeup and stuff, so that's why I think they gave you a good deal.
That's probably true. Yeah, you know, it's just they were good days. And anyway, look, that's AC/DC Blokely video. So should we go on to the next one? Cinderella. This isn't it. These were a great band as well. So here's the record. And you know what? It's a really good album. Bad Seamstress Blues is really. This was quite a bluesy album in parts, particularly Long Cold Winter, which is probably their Mistreated or Baby I'm Gonna Leave You. The only problem with that song in particular on the album is it gets faded out instead of coming to its natural conclusion, which is a real shame. But Gypsy Road, The Last Smile, You Don't Know What It's Got Till It's Gone, which was their massive ballad, I guess, at the time. It's a really good album. They were starting to look a bit cooler as well, I think, at the time. So I guess the other thing as well with Cinderella at this time, and I was checking some of the old tickets, they just seem to be playing everywhere all the time in the UK. They supported Judas Priest, Gav. Do you remember on the Ram It Down tour this year?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
And then we saw them at the Dominion later that year, being supported by Little Angels. So shout out to Tony Jepson, bless him. And they were brilliant times. They just seemed to see them all the time. We saw them in Germany at Monsters of Rock. We saw them at Donington Monsters of Rock. They did their own work. Yeah. Good day. So it's a good album, really good, definitely worth listening. The production sounds fantastic.
Do you know who plays the drums?
No, but you're going to tell me.
Cozy Powell.
Wow, that's why it sounds so good then.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Did you just say he played the drums on this album?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Every song. Yeah. I don't know why they did that, because Fred Coury didn't play on the first album either, as far as I remember.
No.
So yeah, bit bad news for him, but you can't compete with the Cozy, can you?
No, you can't. Maybe that's why Long Cold Winter sounds so much like Mistreated then, because it's got. If you listen to that, it's the same tempo all the way through. It's incredible.
Yeah, the drumming's brilliant on this album. You don't even realise how good it is until you probably go back and listen to it now with knowing that it's cozy, and you'll realise that it sounds great. Its drumming's brilliant. So confident, you can't compete.
And the guitar work was good on this album as well. Really, really bluesy. Really, really good.
It was strange that they went that way, because the first Night Songs I loved, and it was one of my favourite records of that year, and I was all over Cinderella. And it's strange that they went a different way. Were going away from that hair metal, for want of a better phrase, and they were going down the bluesy route. And I wasn't a massive blues fan. I didn't really get into it, so I bought this. I was actually gutted when I got it, and I got it home. I put it on. There were a couple of songs. Yeah, Gypsy Road, loved it.
Gypsy Road's great. Yeah,
it's a great song, but then it had the bluesy, and I wasn't a blue. It wasn't my thing. So I was a bit gutted. I could recognise
enough makeup for you, Jam, and cowboy boots, right?
Well, yeah, basically, it was like, and I knew that I recognised it, because at this time there are bands that would get out there to do what they needed to do to sell some records, and then at a point, band will play what they want. They'll do what they want to do. Someone like Gary Moore that will do the rock or the metal, and then suddenly go, actually, now I can do what I want. But I recognise it was really. I played it a lot. I listened to it a lot. It just wasn't as good as the first album, in my opinion.
Cool, that's Cinderella. So remember Jammo's comment at the beginning of the pod that he went off bands that got too big, and I give you Jammo's three choices. So over to you, Jam.
Thank you for the introduction. But if you recall, I said if they got too big and they're like too poppy and popular. But we know I love the Scorpions. If any of you lot have watched any of our pods, I love the Scorpions. They're immense. Early doors, most of us, it was only me that really liked the Scorpions. They didn't do a lot of touring at a certain point here. We saw them at Nebworth, and we saw them at Donington, and Nebworth was fairly uninspired, and it was hard because I was going on about this band. Everyone's going, yeah, they're okay, Jam. We don't know what you're on about. They're not that good. Anyway, this record came out. They were ruling the world when this came out. They were massive. And this was a little bit more commercial. I don't think a lot of the cover, but there you go. But the actual sound on this record is really good. It's really well produced. The guitars, the most important thing as far as I was concerned, sounded great. Highlights for me, and if you're just literally thinking, because there might be people looking at this going, actually, I can't really remember this, or I haven't listened to it. If you stick in Media Overkill, it's brilliant. It's an absolutely banging track. But they had Don't Stop at the Top, again, another good rocky track. But they had When Passion Rules the Game on it, and The Rhythm of Love. And they're two really commercial, great produced. They sound great. Perfect for the radio in America and MTV and all that sort of thing.
Well, they still play The Rhythm of Love on Planet Rock all the time.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. It's a great ballady song, and it sounds brilliant. They're fully liquid up at this point as well. They're doing all the brilliant stage show and just spreading themselves across the world. And I absolutely loved them. So when this come out, I'm just still totally into it and totally loving it. What are you boys thinking?
I've got this album, but I haven't picked this one out to show them. But yeah, it's a good album. Yeah, enjoyed Rhythm of Love. But like you, I think these are one of those bands that the late 80s were probably starting to lose. They were massive, but maybe starting to lose their shine with some of the other bands that were out there at the time, for me personally. So we'd seen them all in 1986 at Donington. To my mind, they blew everybody else off the stage. They were amazing. And yeah, they had gone quite commercial by the time this came out. But yeah, it's worth a listen, this album. I only had it on the other day, actually. It's good.
I never actually bought this until just recently. Jammy played it to me quite a lot in his bedroom when we used to go out drinking back in the days, and we used to end up round his house first, wake him up, go after his hard day at the bank, and we'd listen to stuff like this, and he said, "What do you think of Scorpions' new album?" I said, "I don't really like it, to be honest, but nowadays I think it's really, really good."
Well, I played it to him in my shed literally like last year. I put it on, year before last it was. I said, yeah.
Oh, yeah, on CD, yeah.
I put it on and it blew him up. I said,
it did,
good.
yeah, it did blow me away. I hadn't heard it for so long.
But none of us went to the tour, though, did we? Because they played England that year. Only Gary went, I think. I think Ballo might have gone, but none of us went.
No, I didn't go.
So maybe we had fallen out of love with them a little bit.
Look at all the other bands that were touring at the time. We had plenty of choice.
Yeah, true.
Take our hard-earned pounds.
But just to reiterate, this is a fantastic album, and don't forget, I love the Scorpions, and they never did a bad one. So there you go. I'm not biased, but I'm biased.
Next one of these small bands. Oh, here we go.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, so here we go. Iron Maiden. It's concept album time for Maiden. Bringing in the synthesizers. When you look back at somewhere in the previous record, somewhere in time, they had the guitar synths. When Seventh Son of a Seventh Son came out, you then realised what was happening. They'd been experimenting and touching, but they went fully synth on this album. And I really liked it. It's really, really good. It kicks off with, in my mind, the Immense Moonchild. And the highlights of the awesome single, Can I Play With Madness? I mean, everyone knows that. And Evil Catmandu. I mean, Evil That Men Do. Brilliant song. I still listen to that and I love that. I'll put that on now. And it's spawned, for me, Maiden have done so many live albums, but for me, Maiden England '88, the live album, is brilliant. That's the one I listen to when I'm going to listen to a Maiden live album. That's the one I go to.
Really?
I love the set list on it. Yeah, I love it. I love the set list on it. I got the picture disc. They do a live picture double album. It's really good. And of course, this gave them the opportunity to become. This gave them the opportunity to become Monsters of Rock headliners as well, didn't they? They never looked back since. So I don't know that this gets the love that personally I think it deserves. I think there's people that think it's too proggy or too this or too that. But it's Iron Maiden, and it's brilliant.
Totally brilliant. Totally agree with everything you said. Brilliant album. Absolutely adore it. It's their last, if you want to be controversial, it's their last great album, in my opinion.
Their last classic, great. I mean, it probably is their last of those classics of that era. So, yeah, maybe the last of their golden era.
And they were brilliant at Donington as well.
They
Absolutely
were.
Brilliant.
And Germany. And they were brilliant in Germany and Wembley Arena a couple of months after that as well. So happy days. They were good times seeing Iron Maiden.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Really fantastic.
When they jumped to arenas from theatres on this tour, wasn't it?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, that was the last time we'd seen them.
And they did it brilliantly with the set and everything. Everything about this vibe I loved.
Right. That leads us on to Jam's final.
Another little band.
Another small band.
I mean, these three records that I've got in this particular curation for '88, I'm amazed that I managed to get ahead of these boys. Because again, this is an absolute monster of a record. The follow-up to the ridiculously amazing, making a difference to all of our lives, Master of Puppets. We do have a pod about this album, Justice for All, if you want to dig deep after you get off of here. We covered the album quite extensively and the tour, because it was massive for us. So I won't labour the point too much. But following Master of Puppets, Metallica released the $5.98 Garage Days Revisited EP. Five epic tracks, as far as I was concerned. That was my favourite. I loved that so much. I lived by that that came out in '87, and I absolutely adored it. The previous B-sides of Am I Evil and Blitzkrieg on their previous records, again, loved them so much. And for the lead up to this album, a week or so before this was released, we got the Harvester of Sorrow 12-inch, which Gav is kindly showing there. And the B-side for the Harvester of Sorrow 12-inch was Bread Fan and The Prince. And I love Bread Fan and I love The Prince. So getting that 12-inch, going to the record shop and buying that the week before, I think it was a week or 10 days before, buying it the week or 10 days before this album came out, I was frothing. I was in such a state. We had Master of Puppets, we'd had the $5.98 EP, we then had that, and then this came out.
Yeah. The
first thing I thought was, it's a record, it's a double album without a gatefold sleeve. And
weird.
And I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. It blew me away. And then I thought, that's a bit, but then when it came out, and it was just brilliant. I loved everything. I loved everything about it. The fact they put it over to a double album seemed to make it more special. I don't know. It kicked off with Blackened, unless I'm mistaken, which I think is immense. Love that track. It's so heavy. The Eye of the Beholder is another favourite of mine. And I just remember we've talked loads about the production and the lack of bass and everything about that. But I just remember thinking how heavy, how metal the guitars were and the chords. It just was so metal that I just loved it. And this has got one on it. And for me, that song has got everything. I know Gav had the single up a minute ago. The actual song, I'll be honest with you, I can't think how many times I've stumbled across a new video on YouTube where someone is watching the video of one for the first time, whether it's a vocal coach or whether it's the charismatic, but whoever it is, I seem to then still end up watching the an hour video of people watching one video by Metallica. And I watch these people get blown away by it. They get emotional and they feel how I did however many years ago this was in 1988. And that still has a massive effect on me, that single. So the fact this album has got that on it, I don't think really much more needs to be said. Anyway, what do you boys think? What's your thoughts on And Justice for All?
Couple of things just to point out. Obviously, there's the original one on Vertigo, so that's pretty cool. And this is great. You're right with the they're brilliant, aren't they? With those little bits. Look at that, it's fantastic. But one thing they've just released actually in the UK. I know they did this in the States through Walmart last year. They've just released in the UK the dye green version, and I have to say, oh my gosh, it sounds so loud when you put it on. It just sounds absolutely fantastic. And if you think about the album, you've picked out a couple of your favourites, Jam. For me, side three is those three songs on side three: The Shortest Straw, Harvester of Sorrow, and The Frayed Ends of Sanity. Oh my God, that you could just play that all day long. It's absolutely brilliant. And I'd really encourage you, if you haven't got this, I think you can pick this up for about 40 quid at the moment, and it's limited. And if you haven't got it, I would really encourage you to go and get it, because it looks brilliant, it sounds amazing. And this is pressed on their own Blackened label. And they've got some great stuff etched into the runouts on these records as well. So just go and collect them. If you won't lose out on these for sure. I've also got the box set down there somewhere, but it's too heavy to pick up. There you go. Yeah. Anything else on this one? Gaps, any memories from this one?
Yeah, I bought it the day it came out. I was in a band with a couple of guys from Oxford, and we went back to one of his, the drummer Neil, his house, put it on. Obviously, we were dismayed by the lack of bass, but everyone's covered that, so there's no point saying anything more about it. But yeah, the riffs. I mean, it starts Blackened is just immense, and the closing song Dyer's Eve. They're the two probably thrash metal songs on the album. But Harvester of Sorrow for me is my favourite. It's just fantastic, and Lars's drumming in it is brilliant. So yeah, there's nothing bad about this album apart from the fact it's maybe just a little bit too long.
Totally agree. Nothing more to add.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed that top 12. So let's have a quick look at the best of the rest. And there might work. I mean, there was a whole mix of stuff. And the best of the rest, we picked out another 12. You could have had these 12 in the top 12, to be fair. I mean, I think I've certainly got all of those albums on that slide. The Van Halen album, that was a bit of a departure in terms of where they were in the past. And of course, you've got the others on LA Guns, Anthrax, Bon Jovi, Poison. So,
Judas Priest should never not be in the top 12, but unfortunately, Ram It Down is a bit of a disappointment. Apart from the title track, we all agree that Ram It Down's a brilliant song with millions of solos on there, but the drumming was rubbish. And Saxon going a little bit poppy as well. Randomly kicks in there for
oh my gosh, I love this album. It's absolutely brilliant. I saw them at the Marquee. This is probably why it means a lot to me, but these were hot live. They were amazing. It's brilliant. Shout out to the Aussie album as well. That's a great album. No Rest for the Wicked, and that's definitely worth a listen. So
yeah, tons of records we missed out. Let us know in the comments what we missed out. We love it when we see your lists and your top fives as well. So
yeah,
please participate.
While we're here.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Cheers, Gav. So there's your 12 classics. I'm sure you will either agree, disagree. Let us know in the comments. Tell us what your top 5 are. Actually, tell us what your top 12 is, if you like. Or tell us what your top 24 is, we don't mind. But they're the 12 that we picked, and I think quite a few of those records mean quite a lot to us for different reasons. So, without further ado, let's go to the top 5, and let's go to our resident Alan Freeman for today, and that's Jammo, who's going to talk through the top 5.
Thank you, Dill. I appreciate that. Now, as Dill said, please do let us know what your thoughts are. We're now going to tell you the official one, so it doesn't really matter. No, but I'm joking. Please don't tell us. This is the real one. Anyway, the top 5 for the killer albums from the PowerAge of 1988. They said don't stop at the top, so they'll be very happy as it's number 5 for the Scorpions with Savage Amusement. This album is certainly just like Living in Paradise. It's a superb skyscraper by David Lee Roth at number 4. Now then, pop pickers, can they play with madness? They can do whatever the hell they want. It's Iron Maiden after all. They're at number 3 with Seventh Son of a Seventh Son in the official top 5 albums from Tales from the PowerAge. Chaos was rampant in an age of distrust. Yes, it's Slayer with South of Heaven at number 2. It really could only be one at number 1. Yeah, it's And Justice for All from the mighty, mighty Metallica.
Well, so And Justice for All makes the number 1 spot. And actually, this is the only band that has made 2 number 1 spots so far in our homage to the 1980s. There was a bit of controversy in 1981, but we'll leave that for another chat. Anyway, so well done, Metallica. Well done to all the bands that were mentioned today. Well done to Dogs D'Amore as well for getting in that top 12. Good lads. There's your 5. Metallica, Slayer, Maiden, David Lee Roth beating Van Halen in 1988 in our list, interestingly. And the Scorps coming in at the number 5. Yeah, and that Scorpions album actually is a better listen today than I felt it was in 1988, funnily enough. But have a listen to it yourself and tell us what you think. So there they are, the top 5. Hope you enjoyed that. Let's go on to just tell you guys what else we've been doing and what else we share with you. This is our live channel. When you go onto YouTube, you'll see 2 tabs, which is the Tales from the PowerAge tab and then the live Tales from the PowerAge. So lots of excellent videos uploaded onto that. Most recently, we've got a brilliant British band called Florence Black, and we've uploaded a couple of videos from them. So please check them out and give them some love. There's also some close-ups of Blackberry Smoke at HMV in Oxford Street as well, which again is definitely worth a watch. Look out for some more interesting stuff over the course of the next few weeks. You can have a check out what we're doing on Tales from the PowerAge on Facebook. You can have a chat with us on Twitter. And randomly, I was talking to some weather guy from the States the other day through Twitter, which was brilliant, about non-bass playing on And Justice for All, ironically. Quite apt, isn't it, for tonight's one? So any weather men or weather women that would like to have a chat with us, feel free. We'll talk to anybody. You can speak to us online on www.talesfromthepowerage.com. If you want some merch, redbubble.com merchandise. We've got some amazing badges that we will be sharing when we catch up with some of our good friends over the course of the next couple of months. But that's us. That's Tales from the PowerAge. So just a reminder, please subscribe. It's really, really important. There you go. See you next time. I haven't even finished yet, and he's off. Please subscribe, hit the house bell, and I'll see you soon. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.